Hi again. We are starting P4 back, right from where we left off. KE under CAPM. In case of diversification, when you diversify, you are basically choosing a different line of business to invest in. But when you are expanding, you are choosing the same line of business, but obviously you are expanding through probably more branches or through probably more factories of your own company. But in case of diversification, your current beta equity becomes useless. Competitor or proxy beta equity is useless, and you need a new fresh beta equity. So what you do is in ungearing, you compute the beta equity by adding the beta asset. Sorry, you compute the beta asset and by adding the proxy or competitor data, and for ungearing you uh, add your own results and then you compute the beta equity. So the example given, um, it says company debt to equity ratio is 2 is to 3. By market value, risk free rate is 12% and market rate is 15%. Company has a beta equity of 1.2. Company is thinking to enter into a new line of business and has found a proxy company with beta equity of 1.1 and debt to equity ratio by market value of 1 is to 3. Tax rate is 30% and requirement is to compute KE under CAPM in case of expansion. But in case of expansion, you always use the company's beta equity only. But the other requirement says KE under CAPM in case of diversification. Now, the question says following data relates to ABC Limited. Share capital is given to us $0.2 per share and 8% debentures are also mentioned. Share price of ABC Limited is $3 per share and debts are trading at 120 to 100 and are risk free. Tax rate is 30% and company has beta equity of 1.2. ABC wants to enter into new industry and has found XYZ as a competitor whose data is share capital is $0.5 per share and 10% debentures are issued. Then they have given a competitor's data, that is XYZ has a share price of $0.6 per share and debts are risk free trading at 110 to 100. XYZ has a beta equity of 1.05 and RF is 15, RM is 18%. Now you need to compute KE under diversification, that is KE under CAPM if ABC enters into new industry. And I'm sure you would be able to do both of these examples, right? Um, Cost of debt are of four kinds: redeemable, irredeemable, convertible, and spread based bonds in P4. Spread based bonds was not a part of F9, but the other three were a part of F9. In case of redeemable, your time period is known. In case of irredeemable, time period is not known. And in case of convertible, uh, a company gives an option to its loan note holders that at the time of redemption, what we can do is we can offer you new shares rather than taking the redemption amount. So we can convert these loan notes into shares. Spread based bonds are when bond yield is compared to the benchmark yield, that is basically the spread, and the spread based bonds tell us the ranking. According to the spread, we know the ranking of the bonds, and according to that ranking we know the value of that bond. So the spread based bonds, the formula is KD is equals to RF plus spread, where 100 basis points is equals to 1%, so 200 basis points is going to be 2%, right? Example 1 gives us KD, RF was 3% and spread was 0.2%. So we had to compute KD. I computed it through 3.2% and KD1 minus T would be considered 2.24%. Okay. Here are two questions that you can perform if you want to practice it. Cost of debt under redeemable bonds. Now, under redeemable bonds, how do you compute um, the cost of debt? It says A Limited has 8% debentures at par value of 100 to be redeemed after 4 years. At par, bonds have a market value of $98. Tax rate is 30%. Find after tax KD. Market value is $98. So that is the amount that you are paying in year 0 while buying the debenture. So $98 in negative. After tax interest is 5.6. How did I compute it as 5.6? 8% into 1 minus t, because after tax interest it is, right? So 8% is the interest amount, 1 minus t, 1 minus tax rate is equals to 5.6. Okay. So that way we are going to compute our interest amount. Then we have redemption amount. It says redemption will be done at par after 4 years. So on the 4th year you are going to compute the redemption, that is going to be 100. Then you will compute the present value, the net present value, and because the debentures, the ones that are redeemable or the ones that are convertible, the method that we use to compute their cost of debt is the IRR method. So you have to compute another net present value. If you've gotten a positive NPV previously, now you are going to compute a negative NPV, so that you can include it in the IRR formula and compute your KD1 minus T. But in order to come from positive to negative, you are going to only increase your discount factor by maximum 5%. And even in case of vice versa, if you are going from negative to positive, then you are going to reduce your discount factor by maximum 5%. That is what the examiner allows. Okay. IRR was computed. This is highlighted. Okay. These are the examples. Then we have a question about convertible loan notes. So, how are you going to compute it? Again, with the IRR method. And how is the IRR method going to be applied? First of all, it says A Limited has 7% debentures at a par value of $100 to be redeemed after 4 years at par. Tax rate is 30% and market value is $95. Debentures can also be converted after 4 years into 10 shares of the company, and share price at that time will be $10.2 per share. So requirement is after tax cost of debt KD1 minus T. If converted, in year 0, 95 is your market value. After tax interest is going to be computed in the same way as we do in redemption. The only difference in the redemption and conversion is of the amount that you receive at conversion. That is, in this case, you are receiving 10 shares at $10.2 per share. So the value is going to be 102. Whereas if you would have done this for redemption, the amount would be only 100. So you are basically earning less in case of redemption than in conversion. Now, once you have computed the present value, you are going to compute another present value and the net present value. Then you are going to put it in the IRR formula and compute the cost of debt. Now, in case of cost of irredeemable debt, KD is equals to 1 over P naught. I over P naught, where I is the interest amount, P naught is the current market value of debt. Example says A Limited has 8% irredeemable bonds trading at 110 over 100, tax rate is 30%. So requirement is KD and KD1 minus T. You can easily put this in that formula and compute it. Cost of bank loan is always given to you, so you do not have to compute it. Cost of preference shares is computed using KP is equals to preference dividend per share over market price of preference shares. And here's an example of it. You can perform it on your own. 2% into $50 would give you preference dividend per share, and divided by $40 would give you the KP. Just in case if you have an irredeemable debt and your interest is not being paid annually, the previous formula that we looked at was in case of interest being paid annually. If the interest is not being paid annually, then this is a formula. KD is equals to 1 plus I over P naught to the power n minus 1, where I is interest paid each time, P naught is current market price of debenture, and n is equals to number of times interest is paid in a year. Okay. Here is an example that I have performed for you. A Limited has 8% debentures, irredeemable at par of $100 and market value of $90. Tax rate is equals to 30%. Interest is paid quarterly. Now requirement is KD and KD1 minus T. How are you going to compute it? I plus 1 plus I over P naught to the power n minus 1, where I is not being paid annually in this case. It is rather being paid annually, quarterly. So 8% into 100 would give you $8, right? But you are paying it quarterly, so what you need to do is you need to divide it by 4, because there are 4 quarters in 1 year. So you are basically paying 4 times in a year. So 8 divided by 4, you would get $2 that you are going to pay as interest amount in every quarter. To the power 4, why? Because you are paying 4 times over $90 minus 1. And in case of KD1 minus T, 9.1% into 1 minus 30%.